Sup, guys? It's Toad back with you. As always, Thursday, March 6th. 1-2 yesterday, not good. College basketball play hit. Ole Miss, close game, but they wound up winning the game outright. Tennessee did have a chance to try to tie the game at the end and did not make the shot at the end, thankfully. Huge win for Ole Miss. I still think the handicap was right on that. It was not right on the other two, I guess. Dallas Mavs. They did not get up for that game. They got crushed. I apologize for that. And then, of course, the two hockey games that I liked, the one that I didn't play actually wound up going over in the Chicago game. And then the one that I was on didn't go over. And I think it had chances to. It was just that Anaheim did not hold up their end of the bargain. They did not have a whole lot of shots in that game at all. They had very few shots, actually, like fewer than 20, which is pretty inexplicable, to be honest. Vancouver had a nice offensive game. They got 3 goals, so they pretty much held up their end of the bargain. The game was 3-1, I think, going into the third period. So you need 2 goals in the third period. I mean, okay. It could come any number of ways, right? Like, I think Anaheim wound up getting the only goal in the third period, but even at that point, you could get like an empty net goal at the end of the game, and that could put it over. Any goal at that point is going to put the game over. It landed on 5, so we lost that one. What can you do? 1-2, we move on. Not on a good stretch. The start to every month has been terrible this year. So what can you do? Again, like I said, I mean, that's the way it goes sometimes. Still up. I was up in January, up in February. I'm still up on the year. So let's get back to it, man. We got a lot of college basketball action today. I got to try to get through this quickly. I will talk about the conference tourney action first, I guess. The first one up, the Missouri Valley Arch Madness in St. Louis. Arch Madness starts 1 p.m., and I'm actually on this first game, even though the cash percentage looks like it's against me. I'm just going to play Southern Illinois in this game, money line, -114. This is going to be my only conference tournament play so far. This is against Indiana State. Neither of these teams has played yet in the tournament. This entire tournament is on a neutral site, of course, in St. Louis. Southern Illinois up from pick'em to a juiced pick'em, even though they have 67% of tickets, 72% of the cash coming in Indiana State. This is a weird situation. You don't see this very often, where these teams played in the last regular season game, and Indiana State just stomped Southern Illinois by 18 points at Indiana State. But Indiana State was only a 2.5-point favorites. You can see odds makers are telling you these teams are actually pretty close. Ken Palm actually has Southern Illinois as the slightly better team. Well, I'm looking at Southern Utah. So you know what one of my plays is going to be here. He's got Indiana State very, very fast in tempo, though, and both of these teams play somewhat fast, but I think you might see Southern Illinois be able to kind of slow this game down a little bit. He's got Southern Illinois up like 20 ranking spots higher or so. Other than that, I mean, not a whole lot to see as far as what distinguishes one team from another. Although Southern Illinois is the less lucky of the two teams, a little bit underrated as well. I also think that maybe Indiana State's kind of running off of their name recognition. Yeah, both teams somewhat unlucky, but I think Indiana State, yeah, maybe running off of their name recognition from last year to some extent. Southern Illinois also the better defense, by the way, so you're getting the better defense out of the two, although Indiana State is the better offense. Indiana State, but everybody kind of remembers they were that bubble team last year, the Robbie Avila, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, everybody wanted. Everybody wanted them to get in the tournament. They don't have Avila anymore because he's on St. Louis, playing in this city, by the way. But I think Southern Illinois, I think it's a sneaky play. I mean, Southern Illinois, like I said, they just got trashed by Indiana State in this most recent game. But this game, I mean, Southern Illinois had a particularly bad shooting game. Indiana State shot almost 60% from the field. Yes, they also dominated the rebounds, I know, and won the lost the turnover battle and still won. Well, maybe that means Southern Illinois is going to be better at taking care of the ball in this game, too. If Indiana State can't even do it at home, they're a bit more of a fast, like frenetic team, which might not work out as well in this tournament game here. And again, Southern Illinois, when you have a game like this and you get obliterated by this team, and then you play them again right away, you are the team that has all the adjustments to make. And the team that won, it's like, well, everything went well for you, so what can you even change? You can't change that much. And again, Indiana State did shoot out of their minds in this game. And they also had they had 7 more three-pointers made in this game, too, which is a bit of a discrepancy, even though, yeah, sure, I mean, they're probably the better three-point shooting team, but Southern Illinois will be the play. I think the public might come in on this and see, oh, this is a pick the winner type of game, and Indiana State just destroyed them. So how could you possibly play Southern Illinois here? But that's going to be the play. I think it's the weakest of all of my plays. And then elsewhere in this tournament, Missouri State and Illinois State. I believe Missouri State is the worst team in this entire conference. So I think every team in the conference gets into this particular tournament. I forget, but Missouri State I think is the lowest seed in the whole thing, and the top teams obviously have byes in this round, so they're not playing in this round, but the rest of these teams are. Evansville and Murray State. I mean, Murray State's sitting at a 5.5-point favorite. Illinois State 5-point favorite. I don't see a whole lot to gauge in those games. I mean, Illinois State and Murray State are definitely the better of the two teams. Although Murray State coming off of that game where they lost for me when they had that big comeback against Belmont and fell short. But I don't know if that's really going to hurt them that much coming into this game. And then Valpo and Illinois-Chicago. Illinois-Chicago, a 4.5-point favorite. UIC actually just beat Valpo, I'm pretty sure. So this is another one of those quick revenge spots here, although it wasn't as much of a blowout. I don't think it was a 4-point win. But UIC, I mean, I don't know if they're really used to even playing in this tournament because I think they were in a different conference for a while. I don't even know, man, but I think they did move over into this conference, and maybe they're not as used to playing in the Arch Madness as Valpo is. And I think UIC has been kind of playing above their pay grade to some extent this year, and they just beat Valpo. So it is possible Valpo is the way to look in this game. And this line, I think, is almost the same as it was in that game at UIC. I think they were like a 5.5-point favorite there. So maybe that means this line is a little bit too high. Like, why is this line as high as it is? But I don't know. In that game, I might have a lean to Valpo taking the points. These other two, I would probably look towards the favorite. The WCC starting, that's a neutral site location as well. This is going to be a later game in Las Vegas. San Diego and Pacific, the two worst teams in the conference, face off. Good luck trying to figure this game out. Both teams suck. I think each team won on their home floor. Pacific, a very small 1.5-point favorite, up from 1 to 1.5. I think they are the slightly better teams. That line is about right. But, yeah, I mean, if you're playing this game, I think you're a total degenerate. Actually, this game is only at 5:30 p.m. I thought it was later. We got games throughout the day, man. We're going to have to flip on ESPN Plus, man, and start watching these games. The Sun Belt continues with Georgia Southern and Georgia State. Georgia Southern up from 3 to 3.5. And if you look at Georgia Southern against Georgia State, I think they split the season series, if I'm not mistaken. But I think Georgia Southern is actually, I mean, the odds makers are telling you they're the better of these two teams. I like the Georgia Southern side because not only are they the better team, they lost at Georgia State only by 4 points, and they beat Georgia State only by 1. But I actually think those results are misleading in a way, especially if you look at this most recent one, because I think Georgia Southern had a lot of statistical advantages in this game. Yeah, Georgia State shot 53.3% from 3, so they had a real outlier performance in this game. Georgia Southern, I think, has been the better of the two rebounding teams. So Georgia Southern already played in this tournament. So again, I always tell you, there's a little bit of an advantage in these tournament games where if you already played on this floor, you got that win out of the way. Georgia Southern played last night and won fairly easily as well. So when especially when it's like an easy game like that, you don't have to really exert yourself. You get used to playing in that venue. So Georgia Southern, I think, does have the advantage in this game. They're the better team. The line is up from 3 to 3.5. That's the way I would look in this game. And then Old Dominion and Texas State. Texas State sitting at a 4-point favorite. Old Dominion, of course, did also play yesterday, and I think they won against, in a little bit of a closer game, I think, against Louisiana Lafayette, who's not a good team either. But again, Old Dominion may have a little bit of an advantage. Again, already getting acclimated to this venue again in Pensacola here. All these games being played at Pensacola in this neutral site tournament here. So maybe a slight lean to grabbing the points with Old Dominion there, although Texas State is the better of the two teams. So we'll see what happens there. Ohio Valley continues kind of similar here. This is all at a neutral site as well. Arkansas Little Rock will make their first appearance, as I'm actually surprised Arkansas Little Rock actually fell down this far because they actually didn't get one of the top seeds, I think, so they don't have a bye in this round, but they're one of the better teams in this conference, man. So I'm surprised they actually fell to this spot, I think. So I think SEMO and SIU Edwardsville, I think, wound up as the top two. So Arkansas Little Rock gets one fewer bye, unfortunately for them, because I do think they're one of the better teams. Kind of a tough spot for them because Tennessee Martin played last night, but it was a close game, man. They got through Tennessee Tech, I believe, last night, barely. But that does mean that UT Martin was able to, again, get that game out of the way. And not only does it help, you get accustomed to that venue again, you just played there, but you get that first game out of the way, so those nerves, get out of the way there. Tennessee Martin, I think, has actually already played 2 games in this tournament now, so they're playing 3 in a row. Is that right? Let me see here. No. Never mind. No. So last night, I guess it wasn't that much of an advantage for the teams like in the Sun Belt and in the Ohio Valley that had already played 1 game in the tournament. I think they all got bounced, except for I think Lindenwood maybe did. I don't even know. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I think they all got bounced. Lindenwood against Tennessee State. Lindenwood pulled off a nice win over Morehead State last night in a game that was closely lined. I kind of thought Morehead State might wind up getting the win there because they're just, even though they're the name team and everybody would kind of be betting on them, I thought they were just kind of the more experienced team there, but Lindenwood was able to get through. Big win for that program with Lindenwood, but now up against a team that's better than they are in Tennessee State. I don't know, man. Even though Lindenwood, again, they did get the win last night to kind of get accustomed to this venue, but I don't know. I think Lindenwood is kind of more out of their element than these other teams are. So Tennessee State being the better team, maybe a slight lean that way, but really not a strong lean there at all. And then, yeah, again, Arkansas Little Rock, they are the better team, but Tennessee Martin was able to get that win last night to kind of give themselves a little bit of an edge coming into this. The Summit continues. UMKC was able to knock out Oral Roberts last night. I told you that I thought they would. Again, all these games, man, the Horizon League games, 2 nights ago, I was right about all the favorites. Every single one of them won and covered. I was right about all 3. I was right about a lot of these favorites last night. I'm on none of these games, so fuck me, I guess. On Nebraska-Omaha, I've been telling you all year how overrated Omaha is, and they're up from 1-2 in this game. They're only a 2-point favorite against Kansas City. I think they swept the season series against Kansas City. I mean, the money looks like it has come in a little bit on Omaha here, but I wouldn't trust them, man. Again, I just think they're overrated. They fell into this spot in the tournament, so they didn't get one of the top seeds in the conference, which I think went to South Dakota State and North Dakota State. Or no, I guess actually every team is playing. No, Nebraska is the top seed. What am I saying? They won the regular season title, right? I don't even know, man. But I think they are the 1 seed because UMKC was in that 8-9 matchup. Excuse me. Oh, come on, man. Let me see. Get back to it here. Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. So I guess the Summit League is actually splitting their games up across 2 days. I think that's why it seems weird to me that some of the games are played today and some are tomorrow, but every one of the teams is going to be playing in this round, I'm pretty sure, except for Oral Roberts, who got eliminated, of course. So yeah, that's what it is here. Nebraska-Omaha is the 1 seed in this tournament, yet actually that is pretty telling, right? That they're the 1 seed and they're only a 2-point favorite against the bottom seed, and UMKC already got that first game out of the way. It's kind of double revenge for them. I think revenge is kind of overstated unless it's like tournament revenge from last year. Then that is kind of more of an extra motivator, but probably I would lean to taking the points with UMKC here, though, just because, again, I think it looks like the odds makers. It looks way too easy to take Omaha here, and I've been telling you how overrated they are all year, but UMKC hasn't been able to get it done when they played Omaha this year, so maybe it's a bad matchup for them, so we'll see what happens there. And then St. Thomas, one of the actual better teams in the Summit, is a 9.5-point favorite against Denver. Not a whole lot to see there. I wouldn't expect St. Thomas to lose that game. But St. Thomas is still ineligible for the tournament, though. But that might make them more motivated in this tournament because this is going to be like the last, like maybe their last gasp. Although they'll probably get into like one of those early season tournaments. I think they're not eligible for the NIT either, but they'll probably wind up in like the CIT or CBI or something as long as they do well enough in this tournament. The Horizon continues with Youngstown State down from 2.5 to 2, and these games not at a neutral site. The Summit are all at a neutral site in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. All the games I talked about are on neutral sites so far. Horizon, though, the Horizon tournament reseeds every round, I think, and the home team is always the higher seed. So the higher seed gets a home advantage here. But for Youngstown, they're not even The odds makers are telling you IPFW is actually the better team here, as Youngstown isn't even getting a full home court advantage in the line here, down from 2.5 to 2. I would probably agree with that just because I do think IPFW is the better team. Both of these teams have been decent the last, in some recent years in this tournament, and they haven't been good in the tournament, and now they're playing each other. So I don't know, man. So we'll see. These two teams, yeah, they just haven't cut it in the Horizon tournament this year. But I would lean to IPFW just because I do think they are the better team. The market seems to be indicating that way. Oakland played last night. Did Milwaukee already play in this tournament as well, or did they not? I forget. I think probably they did not. So Oakland, Northern Kentucky, and Wright State are the teams that all have wins already in this tournament. They all won at home, though. Now they all have to go on the road. So Oakland now having to go to Milwaukee, who I personally think is the best team in this conference. So this conference tournament is usually a little bit wacky, and it's usually pretty close. But I don't expect Milwaukee to lose this one, even though Oakland did get that game out of the way. It's a little bit different when you're having to go all over the place and it's not at a neutral site, and you don't get, you don't have to get acclimated to that one building and then you get to stay in that building. That's not the case in this tournament. Oakland now has to travel and go to Milwaukee, so that gives Milwaukee a little bit of maybe an extra edge there, even though Oakland did get that first win in the tournament. Milwaukee up from 6 to 6.5. I would agree with that move. I would lean that way to Milwaukee being the better team. Cleveland State, I would lean against them, and the market read looks like it is against them as well. I've been talking about them being one of the overrated teams in the Horizon, and I think they are, and I think that's why this line is moving like this. Odds makers are telling you Northern Kentucky not that much worse than Cleveland State. Cleveland State down from 5.5 to 4 here. 67% of tickets, 95% of the cash coming in on Northern Kentucky. I agree with the Northern Kentucky side in this one, like I just said. It seems like strong market indicators on them as well, and it's just because, again, I think Cleveland State is just a little bit overrated, even though they are at home. Northern Kentucky is having to travel. Oakland, Northern Kentucky, and Wright State all got easy wins in the first round, though. And then Robert Morris, the market read looks like it's against Robert Morris, too. They're down from 6.5 to 6. 75% of tickets, only 63% of the cash on them, so they're public. They are home favored in this game, though, so I don't know. I mean, I might still have a slight lean to Wright State in this one just because that's the way the market is indicating. I don't have a strong read on this game otherwise. I think Cleveland State is the most overrated team here, so I would be looking to fade them more than I would be looking to fade Robert Morris in this tournament. But still, Wright State, I think, is a little bit under the radar, though. I don't think they're that bad a team. I think they may be able to compete a little bit in this tournament. They're a team, I mean, they're used to playing in this tournament. They're usually kind of around in this tournament. And Robert Morris, I think, is they've moved over to this conference pretty recently, so they're a little bit less used to it. Although, of course, again, they're playing at home, though, so that means that Wright State isn't really used to playing at Robert Morris's venue as much, even though I think they did probably play there this year, because these teams do play at these venues during the regular season usually. The Patriot League, these games are all at the home arena of the higher seed as well. I believe Colgate, I don't know, a bunch of these teams, I could not figure out what the tiebreaker scenarios were in this conference, man, because Colgate, I think Colgate, BU, and Navy, and maybe Army are all in a four-way tie, so I was like, how did they break the tie here? I don't know. So these teams are the 3 through 6 teams, and I don't know which is which. I don't know if Army Colgate is the 4-5 game or the 3-6 game, and Navy BU is the other one of those two. I don't know which. Colgate, I mean, we know Colgate. I mean, they've won this conference the last few years. They've dominated this conference. They're a little bit less dominant this year, but they are up from 6 to 6.5 here and getting to host Army, even though Army had been ahead of Colgate in the standings all year. Odds makers are telling you the Colgate is the better team, and they actually get to host this game. And I mean, it's Colgate, man. I mean, you got to have figured they were going to show up at some point, man, because they're not going to go quietly. I don't think, as this has been their conference, even though that does mean there's a target on their back. But I don't think they're going to go down in this game at home. I would lean to Colgate there. Navy and BU Navy having to go up to Boston. BU only a 2-point favorite, so odds makers are telling you Navy is the better team. It feels like these two teams face off in this tournament a lot. And I think it's kind of been split. The games have been pretty close in my recollection, but maybe I'm just remembering just the recent, 1 or 2 games that they played. I don't even know if I have a lean in this one. I mean, the travel for Navy having to go to Boston, maybe not that easy, so maybe slightly into Boston there, to BU, excuse me, even though maybe that's my home bias coming into play. Boston, kid. Lafayette and American down for 4-3.5. I think American is the most overrated team in this conference. I would agree with that move. I would actually lean to Lafayette. Lafayette got through on the first round of this tournament. They won. They beat Holy Cross. It was actually a close call, and it was at Lafayette, so they do have to travel, but they're only traveling within their state, and they're actually I think they actually consider themselves to be a little brother in the state of Pennsylvania, now having to go from their campus to Philadelphia. Not a huge travel spot there. And again, American, like I said, I think they're a little bit overrated. They actually wound up, I think they're the 2 seed in this tournament, and they wound up tied with Bucknell, I think, with the best record. And I think American wound up with the 2 seed, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe that's just me thinking Bucknell was the best team, but I think that's right because Lafayette was in the 8-9 matchup, I think, and Loyola Maryland won the 7-10, I believe, against Lehigh, who's pretty bad. So I don't know, but anyway, I'm not even sure what's the case, but American down for 4-3.5. I would agree with that move. I would lean to taking the points with Lafayette in that one if I was going to play it. Loyola Maryland at Bucknell. Bucknell down from 7 to 6.5 with juice. I mean, yeah, Lafayette and Loyola Maryland, they did both get that game out of the way, so they both did win. Loyola Maryland, though, I mean, they're having to travel a little bit more, I guess, from Maryland up into Pennsylvania to play Bucknell. Bucknell, I mean, I think they're going to draw, man, because they are usually one of the better teams in this conference as well. I think they're the best team in this conference this year, and they're kind of back on the rise. It's a Bucknell resurgence. I would not want to try to fade Bucknell here, really, to be honest. I mean, they are definitely the better team. They are at home. Even though Loyola Maryland might have a little bit of momentum from that game and close call, really, against Lehigh. They didn't really look that impressive against Lehigh. Although a lot of times when a team doesn't look impressive, you kind of want to be on them because you might be getting a little bit of value. But in this case, yeah, I mean, I would slightly lean to Bucknell. I mean, I don't really see them losing that game, but we'll see. And then the A-Sun continues, and we're down to the semifinals in this game, in this conference. But I think the Ohio Valley is actually going to finish before the A-Sun. I think the A-Sun has these games, and they don't play again until actually, for some reason, I think they do finish their tournament on Saturday, but maybe I'm wrong. I think Ohio Valley also finishes on Saturday. Maybe A-Sun has a little bit more of a break than that. Anyway, Jacksonville, who are the 4 seed, I want to say. This conference gets shuffled around. So I think Queens is the 6. Jacksonville is the 4. Jacksonville hosted a game. I think they hosted the 4-5 matchup, and they won the game in a close game going down to the end there against, who the hell was it against again? I don't even remember. Who are the teams in this conference again? I forget. But Jacksonville against Eastern Kentucky, that's right. I thought Eastern Kentucky was going to win that game. Jacksonville actually had a huge comeback in the second half of that game. So now, I don't know if they maybe exerted themselves too much. Now they have to travel. I think this spot actually looks kind of not great for Jacksonville, actually, just because they had to make that huge comeback, and now they have to go out on the road to North Alabama. North Alabama, I think this is, I don't even know if they're eligible for the tournament yet, man. I think maybe they are, but this North Alabama team has never made the NCAA tournament before, and they draw a huge home crowd, dude. I mean, they're pretty new to Division I, and this home crowd, if you watch North Alabama, like if you watch that other tournament game, it was a packed house, even for like for an A-Sun tournament game that was North Alabama against like the 7 seed or whatever. It was a huge game for that crowd, man. They were going nuts in that game. And North Alabama won, I think, in a blowout, and the crowd was still going crazy. North Alabama up from 5 to 6.5. I would lean to North Alabama in this one, man. I think they have that home crowd is huge there. Jacksonville, I mean, they've been one of the better teams in this conference, really, in recent years. North Alabama, I think they're a little bit extra motivated just because they're new to this thing and they haven't done it yet, and they're getting another home game here, and the crowd is just insane. So that's the way I would lean. Queens and Lipscomb. And Lipscomb, last time they played, they split the season series, actually, and the road team won both games, which is crazy. So Lipscomb lost to Queens on this floor. This game's going to be at Lipscomb in Nashville. And Lipscomb won the game at Queens in North Carolina the last time these two teams played. Lipscomb is down from 10.5 to 9.5, but I'm not sure that I agree with that move, though, even though I know Lipscomb did lose the home game to Queens earlier. But I think that might put a little bit of an extra motivator on the side of Lipscomb because they know they didn't beat Queens in their own venue, even though Lipscomb did go and beat Queens. So now it's another road revenge spot for Queens technically. But I mean, this is a tournament. All these teams are going to want to show up here. Queens, they have one of the worst travel spots out of any of these teams today, though. Queens is playing a 4th straight road game. I think they finished the season with 2 road games in a row. And then in the tournament, they had to go down to Fort Myers, Florida, and win as the 6th seed against the 3 seed against Florida Gulf Coast. That game went down to the wire and featured Queens with that horrible free throw shooter that they have there. Just ridiculous stuff. And now they have to go back up to Nashville. So Queens traveling all over the place, that's very difficult, man. And Lipscomb has just been staying at home for a long time. I think they played 2 straight games on their own floor against Central Arkansas or something like that, and now they're just staying there again. So Queens is at a pretty big travel disadvantage here, so I would not want to try to fade Lipscomb when Queens is in a spot like that. So that's the way I look at that one, and that is it for the conference tournaments. Let's go to the actual play where or the regular season play. We have a lot of regular season games still, but a lot of them are just games that I don't even really care about. I mean, we have American Athletic, we have Merrimack and Marist. I mean, that's going to be a good game. I guess Merrimack is coming off a game where they beat Quinnipiac, which is a big win on senior night for Merrimack. These two teams are still battling, I think, for one of the top seeds here. They're battling for like 1/2 seeds, I think, in this conference here at this point. So this is a big game for both teams. Marist beat Merrimack on the road, so it is still road revenge for Merrimack, but it is Marist's final home game, and they just lost at home to St. Peter's. So it looks like the spot sets up a little bit better for Marist just because they're coming off a worse loss. Merrimack having to play 2 big games in a row. Marist flipped from a 1.5 point favorite to a 1.5 point dog to a 1 point favorite, but odds makers are telling you Merrimack is actually the better of these two teams. 50% of tickets, 84% of the cash coming in on Merrimack. So Merrimack does have the money there. I don't disagree with Merrimack in that game. And then what else do we have here? Let's see. South Carolina State, I would lean that way because NC Central just upset Norfolk State, which was a huge win for NC Central. And now they go to South Carolina State. South Carolina State, is this a revenge spot? Yeah, it is. South Carolina State also lost at NC Central the last time they played, and it's the final home game, final regular game of the season. So I would lay the points with SC State in that one, even though I think they are actually down on the line. Yeah, from 10.5 to 9, but I like the South Carolina State side in that one. That's not a play for me. Man, I'm going to run out of time here. I fucking hate this shit. I lean to Sam Houston against UTEP. I mean, UTEP, it looks almost like a no-brainer to take UTEP with a better record. It's Sam Houston's record ugly, and Sam Houston is favored, and it's like, well, why? I just think Sam Houston's flying under the radar, man. UTEP, they did beat Sam Houston once during the regular season, and this is the final regular season game, so it is a little bit of revenge for Sam Houston. UTEP coming off playing Middle Tennessee and have Louisiana Tech left, so those are bigger games for them. Sam Houston just got trashed by Louisiana Tech. This is not their final home game, though, but they are coming off that ugly game there, so I lean to Sam Houston in that game. Let me see. Sam Houston stayed down from 2.5 to 2 there. What else do we have? Liberty and Middle Tennessee, I mean, that's a big game. I mean, maybe a slight lean to Middle Tennessee, or actually, I don't know, because Liberty's coming off that ugly loss to Kennesaw, which kind of disrupted Liberty's momentum, but I don't know. I don't know what else I think about that game, man. It disrupted Liberty's momentum, but what else was I going to say about that? But it was kind of an embarrassing loss for Liberty as a big home favorite, and I was on Kennesaw in that game. But Middle Tennessee, they're going to want to show up in this game as well. I mean, this is a big game. It's a battle between the two teams that are kind of vying for second place right now. They could still get first place as well. And Middle Tennessee kind of on a roll, coming back home now after a couple of nice road wins as well. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens in that game. Liberty actually up a little bit from a pick'em to a juiced pick'em. Michigan State and Iowa, you're going to hate this, but I'm on Iowa plus 6.5. I think this is a bad spot for Michigan State, man. Michigan State has won 4 straight ranked matchups against Purdue, Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin. Now they go out on the road, 2 of them on the road. So they have been good on the road, but now they're going to Iowa, and Iowa is a fast-paced team. At the very least, Iowa is almost as efficient offensively as Michigan State, even though Michigan State, yeah, they are the better defense, but they're laying points on the road. And up next, they got their final home game, which is another game against Michigan in a Michigan rivalry game. That's a big game. I mean, yeah, Michigan State, they would like to win this conference, but they have a 1.5 game lead in the conference right now. Michigan is the next closest team to them, and that's who they play next. So that is an even bigger game for them. And as far as like the tournament is concerned, I think as long as they get one of those extra buys, like they're not going to really care that much. They just got to get one of the top couple of seeds there, and that is going to happen. Iowa, I know they've been reeling. They're a bad team, but if they have any sense of pride here, they're going to show up on senior night. They just lost a couple of games on the road pretty bad. They both by double digits. They actually played better in their last couple of home games, beating Washington and playing really close against Oregon. So they haven't been as bad really on this floor, and decently competitive, I guess, against Wisconsin and Purdue back on this floor. So Iowa's at least been a little bit better at home. And the other motivator for Iowa here is if they wind up in the bottom 3 in the conference, they're going to miss the Big Ten tournament. The bottom 3 don't get in, so they need to move up. So they have an extra motivator for that reason as well. So give me Iowa plus the points in that one. And then let's see. What else we got? A lot of these are tournament games that I already talked about. Utah Valley, I mean, it almost just looks too easy to lay the 3 with Utah Valley, so I would kind of lean to taking the points with Abilene Christian in that one. Let's see. And then Southern Utah is my other play. This one looks disgusting, I know. Southern Utah plus 6. Ken Baum has this line at 6, and I know I've been preaching that Seattle is an underrated team, and I think they are. They're nowhere near as bad as this ugly record is. And yeah, Seattle, I mean, they're going to try to be playing to move up into the they probably want to get one of the top 4 seeds in the WAC, and they still can do that. But they're coming off a really tough game. They played Grand Canyon to within 3 points, man. Grand Canyon kind of stalled out. This was an ugly, close game. Seattle was in that game in the final minutes of the game, man. Kind of a brutal loss for Seattle there. They lost to Grand Canyon for the second time. That was their final home game, too, so that was a big, big game for them. And now they go out on the road to Southern Utah, who they already beat at home by 23 points. So I don't know if they're really going to pay attention to Southern Utah here, even though, yeah, they do want to move up here. But really, the bottom 2 teams have to play that one extra game, and Seattle obviously is not going to wind up in that spot. But Southern Utah is. But Southern Utah, this is their final home game, man, and they just got crushed. They just played 3 straight road games. Now they finally come back home. They lost their last home game on this floor. I think they're going to want to try to turn it around, even though they are a terrible team. Haven't really been very good. But getting to host Seattle, who's a decent team, and coming off such a horrible loss, 100-59 at Utah Valley. Yeah, I think you're going to be motivated if you lose like that. And this game was a little bit misleading. Southern Utah just shot so badly in this game, and Utah Valley shot really, really well. Just some outliers on both sides of that game that made the game look even worse than it was. Southern Utah shot unbelievably badly in that game. Utah Valley outlier as far as how well they shot in the game. So nobody's going to want to touch Southern Utah here. But they're coming off the embarrassing loss. Seattle's coming off that really tough game where they barely lost. So I like Southern Utah in this game plus the points. And Ken Baum actually has this game at 4, even though Seattle is the better all-around team. This could be another ugly game. Like if Seattle's going to be able to control the pace and slow the game down, then that's not as conducive to laying points on the road. So that's going to make it ugly. But also, Southern Utah is going to want to try to speed the game up a little bit because that's the type of game that they play. And if they're able to do that, it might kind of throw Seattle out of what they want to do. So that's my other play there. And then what do we have? Do we have anything else I wanted to talk about? Not really, I don't think. I already hit all the conference games. Yeah, these big West games late at night. Nothing really that interesting going on in those games. Irvine and UC Davis might be an interesting game to take a look at. But other than that, not a whole lot going on. NHL, I don't know how much I want to go through all this. But, yeah, I mean, we'll go a little bit later. I'll take a slightly later train, whatever. I have a game I play in the first game up. Utah minus 110. This is my last play of the day. Utah on the money line. I mean, this game, why would anybody want to take Utah basically as a road favorite at Detroit when Detroit is the team with the better record? Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? Well, I think there are some reasons for it. Utah has actually flipped from a plus 102 dog to a minus 113 favorite. So the money looks like it's flipped the favorite here, so it's coming in on them, even though I do see 89% of the cash on Detroit right now, 63% of the tickets on Utah. I don't know if I agree with the percentages there. I mean, obviously I don't because I'm playing Utah, but this is, me sniffing out a spot here. I don't like the spot for Detroit. They just played a close game against Carolina. They were down 2-0 in that game, but they made it 2-1 with probably 10 or 9 minutes left in the game. So they were playing close with Carolina there. Now they're coming off that, and they got to play Utah. And tomorrow they have to go and play Washington, which is a much, much bigger game. And I know Detroit needs to win games because they're trying to get into the playoffs, but I think that means the pressure is going to be on them here. And this does look like a sandwich spot. Utah's coming off a loss to New Jersey, which, ended a win streak for them, but they are the way more rested team, which I know is being factored into the line, but still, they've had 4 days off, and they're starting a road trip. And I think when you start a road trip, you're going to be focused, especially if you're coming off a loss at home. So I like Utah in this game, man. That's the way that I'm going to look here. Utah actually hasn't been that bad away from home. They have an above 500 road record, which is pretty good. Detroit actually has not been very impressive at home. Not having a very good home record, barely above 500, basically. So give me Utah in that game, man, for those reasons. I know I'm going through these games fast here, but let's see. Columbus is at Florida. Columbus is fighting to try to get into the playoffs. Florida coming off a huge win over Tampa. So I don't know that I would want anything to do with Florida here. Don't have a bigger game up next, though, but could be a little bit of a letdown, and maybe the time off will maybe hurt their winning momentum a little bit. Columbus, just talking about hurting momentum, they just lost their win streak, though, but they got killed by Tampa, and now they're going to Florida. I mean, it's tough to play 2 straight road games when you just got annihilated like that. And Columbus got annihilated by the same Tampa Bay team that Florida just beat, right? So that looks a little bit weird as well. It looks like Florida is kind of a no-brainer in this game, but I'm not sure that they are. They're up from minus 235 to minus 252, though. 88% of tickets, 99% of the cash. They're public. I don't know what I would want to do with this game, to be honest, man. I will pass on the game, but I would slightly lean against Florida based on the scheduling spot. Winnipeg, they're just mired in a loss streak right now, man. So they really need a win, and they lost at home to Philadelphia, and now they get a chance at quick road revenge, which I do think that is going to be a motivator. So I do kind of lean to Winnipeg for that reason, but I do think Philadelphia is still going to show up for this game as well. Winnipeg on 3 straight losses here, and not to really good teams either. Again, chance for road revenge here in this second road game here, which I do think is going to keep them focused. Philadelphia is staying at home, though. They're coming off an ugly loss to Calgary, and they should be focused on Winnipeg again because it is Winnipeg coming into their place. Still lean to Winnipeg. The money looks like it is all coming in on Winnipeg, up from minus 140 to minus 153. 92% of the cash coming in on them, 59% of tickets on Philadelphia. So Philadelphia, shockingly, actually looks like to be getting the public ticket percentage. I don't understand that. I don't agree with that, obviously. I don't even see how it's happening, really, but I agree with everything I'm seeing in the market here with the line move and where the cash is coming in on Winnipeg. I do agree with the revenge spot being a little bit more of a motivator. And if you have 2 focused teams, you're obviously going to want to kind of look to the better of these 2 teams, and that's obviously Winnipeg. So that as well, I'm just surprised. I don't know if that percentage is really right. I don't see what public bettor is going to want to actually take Philadelphia there. Boston at Carolina, my Boston Bruins, man. What can you even say? I mean, they're coming off another terrible loss to Nashville. Maybe it'll be good for them to just get out of there and go on the road. And maybe a game where they'll actually show up for once against a good Carolina team. So maybe you'll actually see a motivated Boston Bruins team for once. I mean, it's a decent spot for them to do it. Carolina's coming off a win against a potential playoff team in Detroit, and they have Winnipeg up next. So they may actually not pay total attention to Boston. I don't quite want to do it, but I would lean to the Boston Bruins if I was going to play this one. You're getting a big underdog price here, so you could play them on the puck line to try to just get close in this game. Carolina up from minus 235 to minus 270. Carolina does like to play more defensively, so maybe that does help as far as taking a big puck line underdog. 79% of tickets, 90% of the cash, though. So the money coming in on Carolina with the way Boston has been playing recently, I guess, but I don't know. I don't know if I would... like I said, I kind of lean to Boston, and that game is the big dog. You got Dallas and Calgary. Dallas coming off a big win over New Jersey. I mean, pretty big win. I guess New Jersey's a good team. They do have Edmonton up next. This does have the makings of looking like a sandwich spot for Dallas. Calgary, I don't really want to come in and try to play Calgary, though. When they're in the middle of this long road trip, they could be getting a little bit tired. They did finally break their losing streak. They lost to all pretty good teams. Tampa, Florida, and Carolina here. Finally broke the loss streak with a win over Philadelphia. Now they're going to Dallas. So maybe they'll be carrying some momentum into this game against Dallas. So maybe a slight lean to Calgary in this one, and that is where the money is coming in. Dallas down from -230 to -214. 67% of tickets on 64% of the cash coming in on Calgary. It is definitely a sandwich spot. You could look to play Calgary puck line or something in this one if you wanted to. Calgary, though, I'm a little bit worried that they are going to be tired coming to the end of the road trip here. And speaking of road trips, Edmonton just returned from a road trip and had a horrendous road trip return. And I tell you, man, a lot of times when these teams return home from road trips, especially off a big win over Carolina like that, they don't do well. And boy, Edmonton did not do well. They got crushed by Anaheim. Ugly, ugly loss. But now when you have that happen to you in that first game back from a road trip and you really don't play well, you tend to be really focused in your next game. So I expect focus out of Edmonton coming into this game against Montreal. Montreal, they're starting a road trip, though, I believe. So they're going to be focused as well. They have momentum coming into this game. I mean, beating Buffalo twice is not going to make them overconfident or anything like that. Coming into this game against Edmonton. So both teams should be focused, but that would make me lean to Edmonton, though, just because they are the better team. They're down, actually, from -260 to 235. But they got 62% of the cash on them, but 53% of tickets on the Montreal side. So, yeah, I mean, maybe a slight lean to the Edmonton side there with where the cash is. Let's go over to the NBA, or I don't have any NBA plays today. I'll just talk about briefly a couple of these games. I mean, Indiana at Atlanta. I mean, Indiana's coming off that nice win over Houston. But, so will they be in a letdown spot after that, or are they going to carry momentum out on the road with them? I mean, I could see maybe they're going to be focused, because you usually are going to be focused when you start a road trip. But I would worry a little bit, because that Houston win was big, and I was on Indiana in that game. It was not a great spot for Houston. Atlanta, they played yesterday, is that right? No, they played a couple days ago. They lost to Milwaukee. They're coming off two pretty tough games, actually playing a third game in 4 days, beating Memphis in a high-scoring game, then losing to Milwaukee in another high-scoring game. You may see this Atlanta team start tiring out, but this is the type of game, man, where you got two teams that might be in slightly questionable spots, I guess, and neither team plays a lot of defense. It might be a game where you want to look to the over, even though the total is crazy high. It's down from 247.5 to 247, juice to the under. But 72% of tickets, 97% of the cash on the over. I would lean to the over in this one again, because both teams struggle defensively, and the Hawks may be quite tired at this point, so you may see their defense really be tired in this game. Pacers team total over might make sense in this game as well, because I think they're in the slightly better spot, although they're down from 4 to 3 here. Ticket percentage, 56% on Pacers, 62% of the cash, though, coming in on the Hawks. So the cash percentage is disagreeing with me. The market read looks like it's on the Hawks. I don't really understand that, but again, I would look to play something over in that game if I was going to play it. Boston is in a back-to-back. They just played last night, but they beat Portland by 10 points and either covered or almost covered with almost all of their starters on the bench, man. I think the only starter who actually played last night for Boston was Jaylen Brown. I think everybody else rested last night. Maybe Derek White was in. I don't even remember. The Celtics rested at least 3 of their starters in that game, and Peyton Pritchard went completely out. I think White did actually play, because Pritchard and White combined for some record amount of 3-pointers. Pritchard had 43 points. I think he hit at least 10 3-pointers himself in the game, which it's absolutely insane, dude. That's what you get with Peyton Pritchard starting the game, and the Celtics still won. That shows you how deep this Boston Celtics team is, man. I mean, again, that's why I think they're still they still should be considered to be the favorite to win it all again this year. Because if this is what their reserves can do when they get in there and they actually want to try to show up and win the game, that's insane. But now what that means is, even though Boston's on a back-to-back, their starters are pretty rested for the most part, because they rested a bunch of them. Philadelphia, of course, we know is a mess, but they're coming off a couple of ugly losses here. So I don't know. Are they going to show up for Boston? Maybe, because it is the Boston Celtics. I'm not going to lay the points here, but Celtics up from 14 to 14.5. Don't see the percentages, but it's not a typical back-to-back is what my point is, because the Celtics rested most of their starters yesterday. So we will see what happens in that game. I don't love the spot for Golden State, as they just annihilated the Knicks. I mean, well, not annihilated them, but it was a fairly close game for a while, and then they ran away with it at the end. So a nice double-digit win in a big game for Golden State against the Knicks. Anunoby was back in that game for the Knicks, too. I think he's been back for a little while. But now coming up to that, it could be a little bit of a down spot for Golden State where they won't totally pay attention to this bad Brooklyn team. Brooklyn returning home from a road trip. It was only a 2-game road trip, and you got the Warriors coming into your place. You may want to show up focus in this game. I would lean to taking the points with the Nets in this one. You're getting a ton of points. Warriors down from 11 to 10.5 with juice. 85% of tickets, only 73% of the cash. So the market read looks like it's in agreement on the Nets. I'm not going to play it, though. And then the Knicks are going out to L.A., man. So the Knicks are starting a road trip. But, even though they're coming off kind of an ugly loss, that was still a big game. That was a big TNT game, I think, where the Knicks, or maybe ESPN, I forget. It was a televised game where the Knicks probably got up for that game and had kind of a letdown in that game, and now having to travel cross-country, even though sometimes I say you're definitely focused to start the road trip. And yeah, they should be focused on L.A., but I don't know, man. I mean, they're going to want to, bounce back from that loss, but still, I think that loss could kind of send them spiraling a little bit too, so I don't know. I would not want to really do anything with this game. The Lakers are just kind of rolling right now, but again, they're beating some good teams in here, but they're also beating some teams that aren't that good. Like, they're coming off that win over New Orleans. I mean, New Orleans, not very good. The Lakers in this game up from 2.5 to 4, though, but 88% of tickets, only 85% of the cash on them. So the Lakers are very, very public here. Of course, the public is going to come in on the Lakers, so I would not want to join the public in laying the points here. I mean, it could be a spot where maybe the Knicks do show up, and maybe getting out of home is just a good thing for them because they get to just focus on basketball. And at this point, I don't think you're going to get any value on the Lakers with the Luka hype and the way the Lakers have been playing. Basically, since they got him, everybody's going to be on the Lakers here, and people say, oh, the Lakers are going to win it all now, whatever. I think we're going a little bit too far on that, so I don't know. That's going to do it, though. That'll do it for me. Enjoy all the games today, man. My plays one more time. College basketball, I got one tournament play for the kind of zigzag spot on Southern Illinois, money line minus 114. Getting real dicey and ugly here with Iowa plus 6.5. I think it's a good spot. And Southern Utah plus 6. And then now we got Utah in hockey. So 2 Utah plays and 2 Southern plays today. Utah Hockey Club, that's going to do it, man. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter. Go check me out, of course, ladies. And then we got patreon.com/Tower Gang to support us, and you get the extra content. You get the bonus content from last night where we had a fun second half to that episode last night as well, where we did talk some business, but we got into some more hilarious stuff as well. Tower Gang, it's the most hilarious podcast out there, man. Go check it out. Go subscribe to the Patreon and get the bonus content from us. Patreon.com/Tower Gang. That's going to do it. Have a good day, everybody. Peace.